Hello and welcome back in to another episode of The Hard Fowl. I'm your host, Pearson Fowler. With me, as always, from GamecockCentral.com, Collyn Taylor, here to discuss the end of what we can officially say has been a tumultuous season for the South Carolina men's basketball team in 2019-2020. They end the season with we'll just call it uninspired, and then we'll spend the next 20 minutes talking about just how uninspired it was. 83-74 loss up in Nashville to the Vanderbilt Commodores. The 11-20, 3-15 in conference Vanderbilt Commodores, who won their first back-to-back conference games since 1940.
Feels like it.
I think that was the stat that I heard. That could be wrong.
Well,
but
considering they went to a Final Four in the mid-'90s, I doubt that's correct.
I know. Well, that was such a surprising run. That was why
they never did a winning back-to-back conference games.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it was crazy. No, but it was an unbelievable performance from South Carolina. Not because it was so surprising that Carolina lost to Vanderbilt, because they have lost to several worse teams than Vanderbilt this year. But what was surprising about it was the actual performance. It was a game that South Carolina absolutely, unequivocally had to have. And as much as the season has been up and down for South Carolina, they have mostly responded. They've gotten themselves ahead of schedule, and then they'll shoot themselves in the foot. And then every time they shoot themselves in the foot, they manage to bounce back. So, having shot themselves in the foot a little bit, but not a horrible amount, just like a little bit of your pinky toe maybe, against Alabama, this was an even more important game. And with their backs against the wall, we've actually seen South Carolina play some really good basketball at times this year. And the energy level, the focus, pretty much everything. There's one exception that I identified watching this game. There was one exception, but with that one exception in mind, everything else that South Carolina did was bad, and arguably the worst that they've done it all season.
Yeah, this was probably by far their worst SEC loss. You look at the other teams they've lost to in the SEC: Florida, tournament team; Tennessee, a top 70 Ken Pom team; Auburn, a tournament team, the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament; Ole Miss, not great, but you did it on the road, and that was against without Justin Minaya for the first game. You're allowed a dud. Mississippi State, bubble team; LSU, tournament team; Alabama was on the bubble for a very long time, and then this one. It was bad. It's a bad loss. And for all the hype about the bubble and for all the hype about, this is the team that can go on a run when you get Justin Minaya back, and I certainly thought so, they got up and took their foot off the gas, and Vanderbilt seized every bit of opportunity they had.
We weren't wrong. This was a legit bubble team. This was a team that could make a run. This is a team that has that potential. This is a very talented team, arguably the most talented team that Frank Martin has had at South Carolina, which makes this, I think, even harder for fans.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I understand it. I mean, if I was a fan, I'd be frustrated too, because this was supposed to be the year that they were able to go get an at-large seed and compete for SEC, another top 4 seed. But some bad losses early and some things that you could change. You changed later on in the year, set yourself up for a really disappointing season. Not disappointing, because it's not a disappointing season. A very frustrating season.
It's just a season full of what could have been.
Yeah, you look back and you're like, well, if we just beat Boston, if we just beat Stetson. They beat Boston and Stetson. They are 20-11 right now. 10-8 in the SEC. And you're going in needing probably one more win.
Yeah, 21 still feels like the magic number, even as bad as the Vanderbilt loss was. Now, we're sitting here doing the end of the season, and it is the end of the season. They still have the SEC tournament. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament.
More than likely.
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's not going to happen. Because at this point, well, I'll save this for after we talk about the Vanderbilt game, but this is basically the end for South Carolina, and it's surprising and disappointing to see it happen like this. 1 of 13 from 3.
Missed their last 12.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Cousteau hit the first one in the corner, and then they missed their next 12.
You get out rebounded? No, you don't.
But I think it was a 2 point.
Yeah, it was a 2-point margin in favor of South Carolina. Okay, so that part they didn't get killed, but they had just 10 assists on 27 made baskets. They had 18 turnovers, and they committed 30 fouls and put Vanderbilt at the line 40 times, including 16 times for Scottie Pippen Jr., and he made 15 of them. all of those things, they're not the worst, I don't think. Like, Carolina's probably had a worse three-point shooting game. I don't remember off the top of my head. They may have had like a 1 of 14, 1 of 15, something like that. I know they've had games with more than 18 turnovers. I know they've had games with fewer than 10 assists. But you hit 3 threes, 3 of 13. Still a bad three-point shooting night. I know Carolina lost by 9, but when and where you hit those threes,
changes the complexion.
That
of the
makes
game.
a difference.
Yeah.
If instead of 18 turnovers, it's 8 turnovers, or even 12, which is still above average for South Carolina, you probably don't lose this game. If you get any more than 2 of 8 shooting and 8 points from A.J. Lawson, or 8 points on 4 of 11 shooting from Mike Kotsar, or better than 6 of 15 shooting from Jermaine Couisnard, there aren't a lot of things you can point to and say South Carolina did them well. Like we talked about on Thursday, Carolina still should have won this game. They could have played their C game and won, but they played like their D- or F game.
Yeah, this was bad. I was talking to my roommate, made the trip up to Nashville with me because he wanted to see him play, and we were talking at halftime, and he goes, "Can you point to anyone on this team that's playing well right now? Anyone?" And I'm like, "No," because Jermaine went off and scored 7 of the first 9, and then disappeared and got in foul trouble, and that's been a big problem of his. And Mike obviously was inefficient. AJ was inefficient. This was just everybody picked to that day to have a bad game. Mm-hmm. No one had a good game.
Except for Justin. I like Justin.
He was so good.
That was the one exception that I referenced earlier. He played 17 minutes, made all 3 of his shots, made both of his free throws, had 4 rebounds, including 1 on the offensive glass, 1 steal, 1 block, finished with 8 points. It looked like he was trying to take the game over there for a little bit because he had a nice sequence where he did what Justin Minaya does, played a little defense, got a little steal, got a transition bucket, as South Carolina desperately needed a bucket. I think they were down by 10 at that point, or maybe 8 in the second half. Kind of got Carolina back into it. He played well. Also, side note, Frank Martin said last week that he had this big, awkward-looking splint on his thumb or whatever. He must have been referencing something different than whatever he was wearing in the game on Saturday.
It was the thing that it'll clamp on here, but it totally immobilizes the thumb.
Yeah, but it looked.
He just said wacky.
Wacky. Okay.
Wacky.
Yeah. Well, I barely if I hadn't watched any Carolina basketball this year and just tuned in for the Vanderbilt game, I wouldn't have known anything because it was just kind of attached to his shooting sleeve. It looked very natural and comfortable.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was a little shocked when he came out for warm-ups and I saw that.
I was expecting something a lot more.
But yeah, they need him.
Yeah, but anyway, good minutes from Justin. Good minutes from Trey Hannibal.
Good minutes from Keyshawn Bryant.
Yeah.
He had a very quietly good game.
Yeah, 13 and 7 for him on 4 of 7 shooting. He finished the season well.
Yes.
3 straight double-doubles, and then he had a 15 and 7 and now a 13 and 7.
Yeah. What you need from him.
Right. So I guess maybe we shouldn't throw the whole baby out, or we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I also don't want to deal with whole babies versus parts of babies, so we're just going to say throw the baby
entire
out.
baby, 100% of the baby.
Yeah. We don't need to throw all of it out with the bathwater, just some of it. Okay, I guess we're dismembering babies on this podcast now. I may cut this later, I don't know. But Keyshawn, fine, good. Justin, good. Trey, good. Everybody else,
yeah, that's pretty much the summation of this game. They couldn't stop fouling. They couldn't get enough 50-50 balls. Vanderbilt had 12 offensive rebounds. And you sent them. They made more free throws than South Carolina attempted.
by a lot. By 6.
Yep.
They made 31. Carolina attempted 25.
Yep.
How much of this, we talked about this last week. This is the topic around Columbia last week. Carolina fouling too much versus the game being called ridiculously. I am someone, doesn't feel like there are a lot of people that do this anymore, but I actually believe both things can be true. It doesn't just have to be one or the other. What was it more on Saturday? You were there. You got to see it up close and personal. On TV, everything looked ridiculous. It looked like there was a stretch where anybody from either team, and this is when I take issue with the officiating, whenever you drive the basketball, it is a foul in college basketball.
Yeah, I hate that.
For stretches of the game. I don't understand that. I don't know what the point of playing the game is, if that's how it's going to be officiated, but seeing it in person, up close and personal,
it's unwatchable.
Was it more the officials or was it more Carolina on Saturday?
It was a little bit of, I'm on the same train as you. It's a little bit of both. I mean, there were a few times that Jermaine drove and got contact and didn't get fouled that would have been foul on the other end, it felt like. But South Carolina hand checked. They made a lot of bad defensive plays. And when you do that, you're not going to win basketball games. When you make stupid fouls, 25 feet from the basket, or they pump fake and you jump and land on them, you know what that is? It's foul. So it happens. Don't do it, and you probably in this game. But
40 free throws.
Yeah.
Like, that number should stand out more, but it's fewer than they allowed against Alabama just a week ago, or now a week and a half ago, a week prior.
I think that they've had 3 SEC teams now attempt at least 40 free throws against them.
That's got to be some kind of record. Now, we talked about it. Carolina's free throw rate in terms of free throws allowed is worst in all of college basketball. This certainly does not help their case. They're going to finish worst in all of college basketball for the season.
21 points roughly above average.
Wow.
Percentage points above average.
So Frank Martin mentioned last week that normally his teams are in the top 20 in free throw rate. I don't know if he was talking about offensive or defensive. I don't know if you've run the numbers like long term, but is this something that Carolina fans should expect to regress to the mean, and that maybe Carolina, even if they're still fouling too much because they're aggressive, will be around like 150 and will maybe have a couple extra wins next season as a result of free throw shooting?
All right. So I think Frank was talking about his offensive free throw rate, because that's actually been pretty decent. 83rd last year, 9th the year before, 52nd the year before that, 32nd, 161, 49th, 201, but that was his first team at South Carolina. Then his teams at K-State, 25th, 51st, 4th, 36th.
Okay, so mostly like top 6.
Top 10-ish% of college basketball for the most part. Now for his defensive rate.
Uh-oh.
Defensive free throw rate. Dating all the way back to Kansas State. This year, 353rd.
Nice.
318th, 333rd, 331st, 200, 310th, 346th, 328th at South Carolina. It's always been bad. We just haven't noticed it as much because they've been good about getting to the line and hitting free throws, which they haven't been this year. Although they have been.
They've actually been shooting free throws okay in the last couple games.
Yeah, they actually have a pretty decent free throw rate.
25 free throws is fine. That's a good number. It's not outrageous. It's solid.
Yeah, and their free throw rate, it's just the discrepancy. I mean, they're 36.8 this year, 53.1 on the defensive side. But everything else, I mean, there's a 3-point margin here. There's a 1-point margin there, 4-point margin, 5-point margin. I mean, all of these are really close.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is just so awful in terms of discrepancy.
I hate that it's the story of the season. And I don't think it is the story of the season, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's 1B. I feel like this season is like A.J. Lawson was very disappointing. Carolina did not have the superstar / centerpiece to its team that it thought it had and that it needed. 2, they fouled a little bit more than they normally do.
An ass ton.
Yeah, but they already foul a lot, and even more than that a lot. And those are like the 2 stories of the season, kind of.
He's an ass ton.
It is a metric ass ton, not even
Absolutely
an imperial ass ton.
It was bad.
It was bad. And you said 50-50 in terms of the culpability for all those fouls.
Yeah.
Or maybe 60-40 Carolina.
Probably 60-40.
60-40.
Carolina.
Frank Martin was very displeased with his team's defense after the game, rightfully so. When you allow 40 free throw attempts, when you give up 83 points, not a lot to say. Positively, Vanderbilt shot 42.5% from the field, which is fine. Just 24% from 3. As you mentioned, they were able to get 12 offensive rebounds, which is on South Carolina's defense, because part of defense is rebounding. I'm one of those people. Are you one of those people?
Say that again?
That part of defense is rebounding?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because I know some people are like, nah, like the defensive possession ends when the shot goes up. I'm like, no, you got to get the rebound.
Yeah.
So you give up 12 offensive rebounds. That's not very good. Very, very disappointing. All right, let's go through it, because I feel like we're just saying the same things over and over again. But it was just like, it was unbelievable. I'm not surprised, but it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was like watching, because I was courtside for all of it. No big deal.
Nice.
Yeah. No. It was like watching a car wreck happen, because they go out to this. I think they go on a 9-0 run. They lose the lead by 1 on a free throw, and then they immediately go on a 9-0 run. Stackhouse test, call timeout.
Mm-hmm.
You're You're like, okay, South Carolina's in control. They're going to put the foot to the pedal. In the half, up 15, and it's that's all she wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Vanderbilt hits a 3, and they go on like a 6-0 run, and then an 8-point lead turns into a 2-point lead at half, and then Vanderbilt starts on like a 17-9 run or an 8-0 run to start the second half. When they came out and hit the first 3, of second half, you're like, done.
Yep,
done.
It felt done. Which is weird because Carolina did basically the exact same thing at the end of the first half against Mississippi State, and then they came out and they were like, actually, we're going to take this game over. We're going to win the second half by 11 and win the game by 12.
It was a mirror image of pretty much the Alabama game. Alabama,
but with Carolina on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, Carolina goes out. Like, I remember watching the Alabama game.
Oh, the Alabama game. Sorry, I thought you meant State. Yeah.
The Alabama game, and when Alabama, they came out down like 2 or 3 at the end of the first half and just absolutely drilled a 3 to start. And that was all she wrote.
The energy level and the focus I mentioned, it just seemed like it was a weird vibe. And when Eric and I talked about the game on Thursday, we didn't have our show Friday because we had the South Carolina women's basketball game on our station, which was great because they won that one convincingly, as they do.
All of them convincingly.
Yeah, even Mississippi State on Sunday in 5 of 6 SEC championships, ridiculous. But as we were talking about the game on Thursday, Eric said, be wary. There might be a strange vibe in Nashville because of what's happened in that community with the tornadoes. And it's like, well, what impact does the tornadoes have and things like that? But we've seen those kinds of things impact sporting events where it's kind of a community coming together. Again, Vanderbilt had nothing to play for.
No,
they were 10-20, 2-15 in conference. They won. It changes nothing. Their season's still terrible. 11-20 is still awful. 3-15 in conference is still awful. Beating Carolina does nothing. The crowd, I can't imagine, cared that much, or was that into Vanderbilt basketball? But was there a weird vibe when you were there? Like, was there a bigger crowd? Were people, more passionate, or was it maybe something within the team? I don't know. Was there something? It seemed like there was something off with Carolina. Was there something kind of on the flip side that seemed like it was propelling Vanderbilt, or was
Vanderbilt
it just about
hard.
How bad Carolina was?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think Vanderbilt played pretty hard. They got to every loose ball. South Carolina, I can't remember a loose ball they came up with. So, yeah, I think they had something to play for, and I think that, the crowd was not great, but it got loud when it needed to get loud, and that place is so weird that the acoustics hold pretty well. So, South Carolina just didn't have an answer. Vanderbilt tried to get physical. They did, and, yeah, it was bad. This is the worst I've seen them play in a very long time.
4 of 11, 2 of 8, and 6 of 15 are your shooting numbers from your 3 best players, Mike Kotsar, A.J. Lawson, and Jermaine Cousinard, respectively. You mentioned Keyshawn Bryant having a good game, but he only took 7 shots. From the bench, he got 4 of 6 from Hannibal, his best game in a while. He finishes with 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. Did turn it over a couple times.
But that's
2 minutes, 4 fouls. But
you get the good and the bad with him.
Yeah, exactly.
You get the good and the bad
at this point.
Yeah.
He's got to eliminate some of that going into next year. We mentioned the good minutes from Anaya. McCurry came in, gave you 5 and 3 in 8 minutes. Bolden, nothing. 0 points, 0 of 4 shooting in 18 minutes. TJ Moss, amazing. Comes in and immediately turns the ball over, and it was a terrible turnover.
Do you want to know what his plus minus was for less than a minute of work?
-3? -4?
-4.
In less than a minute?
Well, it was like this weird run, and I've said it before, I don't like piling on kids because that's mean. But he came in. They were getting absolutely nothing from their guards. Absolutely nothing. He comes in, turns the ball, gets his pocket picked by Saban Lee immediately. Leads to a run out. Comes back down, they take up a shot, they take a bad shot, misses. TJ Moss goes up for the offensive rebound, gets it pulled over from over his head, immediately leads to a Vanderbilt run out. 6-0 run, Frank calls a timeout. TJ Moss doesn't play again.
Oh, man. He tries so hard to be a part of Club Trillion, but he always has like a turnover.
Yeah.
He wanted to be Wildens Levesque this game, who had 1 minute and recorded no other stats.
Did you hear what Frank said about him? I forget what I asked. I think I asked a question about Minaya. Yeah. And he goes, Minaya gives us the toughness at the rim only a couple guys bring this year. He goes, Jalen brings it, and I played him for a little bit against Vanderbilt. And Wildens the vet gives us toughness at the rim. But I saw him jogging back and forth during possessions, and I figured he was tired, so I just didn't play him.
Wow. That sounds right. That's very on brand for Frank Martin. Wildens is going to be good.
He's going to be all three of
those guys are going to be central to South Carolina next year. I have so little to say about this Vanderbilt game, and I just want to jump ahead to into this season, looking ahead to next season, firing Frank Martin, all these things that we're going to do before we talk a little bit about the SEC tournament. But I do feel like we owe it to our listeners, all 6 of them. Hey, Mom.
Yeah. Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. I know you listen.
And Dad. And 2 other random people.
Oh, Mike Kotzo's girlfriend, Veronica.
Did she listen?
Yeah.
That's
hello.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, that's it. My parents.
That's it. But anyway, we owe it to all of them to talk about what actually happened in this game. And like I said, it was awful. Basically everything that Carolina could have done wrong, they did wrong. They didn't get any good performances. They just needed one good performance from one of their key players. They didn't get that.
And they couldn't foul. They couldn't stop fouling. This was, if you want to boil it down to anything, it's the fact that South Carolina allowed Vanderbilt to average 107.9 points per 100. Do you want to know what Vanderbilt's after that game? So now it's updated.
Oh, no.
After their offensive efficiency in SEC play, it went up because they scored more than their average, obviously. Now it is 95.5.
Oh, no.
They are by far the worst defense or offensive efficiency team in the SEC.
Well, helps when you take and make a lot of free throws. Let me ask it to you like this, because I feel like the first 20 minutes of this have been as bad as the second half for Carolina because there's just nothing to say. Were you surprised?
No, I grew up around here. I've followed Carolina athletics for a very long time.
But that's why?
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way.
Like, we were riding up there, my buddy who's from Syracuse looks at me, and he went to Carolina. Looks at me and goes, I don't have a good feeling.
Oh, no.
He goes, I don't have a good feeling. I was like, I don't either. And lo and behold, it held true.
And they needed it.
They needed it as bad as you can need a game.
And it's the worst team in the SEC.
2 SEC wins the last 2 years before South Carolina.
If Carolina goes on a remarkable run, an improbable run, a run that I am not predicting or expecting or thinking that they will go on and even make it to Sunday, much less beat Kentucky in the championship game, which is what would have to happen. Even if Carolina makes it to Sunday, would you be more or less surprised or equally surprised that they lost to Vanderbilt as that run?
I'd be more surprised about the run.
See, I feel like I would be equally surprised or I would have a lack of surprise.
If they beat LSU, I could see them getting there.
Yeah.
You got to beat LSU, but yeah, they match up well with Auburn.
Nothing surprises me with this team, and that's the frustrating part, and at times has been the refreshing part for Carolina. Is there anything else you want to say about the Vanderbilt game? Because I'm
pretty done with it.
Yeah, it was just a really, really terrible game. There's frankly not a whole lot to say about it. Scottie Pippen Jr. owned Carolina.
Yeah.
Saban Lee managed to have a good game without shooting the ball particularly well. He still finished with 19, 4 and 4 on 7 of 16 shooting, which I guess is fine, but didn't make any of his threes. Only made 5 of his 9 free throws. I mean, everybody for Vanderbilt played a very good game. Almost everybody for Carolina played a very underwhelming, disappointing kind of game. What does this mean now?
It means you got to win the damn thing, whole damn thing. It's
well, even just for this season, let's say Carolina beats either Arkansas or Vanderbilt, and then they lose on Friday to whomever, and they finish 19 and 14. You said earlier that this has not been a disappointing season.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a disappointing season.
Okay,
Frustrating.
defend
for sure.
that. Because everyone listening right now is disappointed by this season, by the way that it's turned out.
Yeah, and I get it. I understand the frustration that comes with it, but I also think that you have to look at it in the terms of stability, and you lose a lot, obviously, from that Final Four team, 3 years ago. It's taken you some time to rebuild that and restockpile the shelves, and you're in the middle of your 6th non-losing season. And I know people are like, well, non-losing season, how phenomenal. South Carolina, do you know the last time they had 6 non-losing seasons in a row?
I do, but only because I saw your brilliant tweet and research, so tell me.
like the McGuire days.
A long time ago.
His
last year at Carolina was 1980, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often. And so I think it was like 66 to 81. Yeah, it was that stretch. They had a really long stretch of non-losing seasons. Yeah, 66 to 1981. It doesn't happen very often. And this will be if they make the NIT.
Which is like more up in the air now than it was.
Yeah.
Like that was a foregone conclusion 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I still think they make it.
Yeah.
But let's say they make the NIT. That's like the third postseason in 5 years. Let's just talk NIT and NCAA tournament. That's their third postseason in 5 years. The last time they did that was, as I continue to scroll, the Odom years when they went to a tournament in 04, an NIT in 05, an NIT in 06, and then Darren Horn took him to the NIT in 09. 10 years. They're tied for the third most SEC wins in the last 5 years. So since they went
That's a cool number.
So since they won the 25 and went to the NIT that year, so 16, 17, 18, 19, and now 20, they are tied for third most SEC wins. You know the two teams ahead of them? Kentucky and Florida. And they're tied with Tennessee.
Yep. And it's what, 51? 51 and 39?
51. Yeah, they won 51 games. I think Florida's won 59 and Kentucky 69.
Nice. That's a lot.
So I understand the frustrations. Trust me, I understand it completely.
So it's good in the grand scheme of South Carolina basketball.
Yeah.
And I can accept that.
Yeah, and I understand the frustration.
Yeah, but is it good for this team?
No.
Okay.
No, but I think that it's not good for this team. But then you have to pull back big picture and say, where's this program? Let's just say, where's this program right now compared to 5 years ago? Is it in a better spot than it was 5 years ago? With just the overall talent and just the stability that comes with it.
I think definitely in terms of talent.
Yes.
What? 5 years ago? 5 years ago was the year before the NIT in the 25 win season.
Yeah, you'd be finishing. Yeah, you'd be in the middle of that NIT year.
I guess so. Yes, yeah. But it doesn't matter if your team's more talented if you're not getting results. Like if we say that definitively Carolina is more talented than they were 5 years ago, and in both cases they're in the NIT, then I feel like there's a disconnect there, and there might be a problem.
Right, and I understand the frustration there. But I also think that you look at the program as a whole, and you're legitimately and consistently a top 6 team in the SEC. And is there need for more results there? Absolutely. I'm not going to discredit that one bit. But I also think for those that want to fire Frank Martin, to start over is a little premature at this point.
I think so.
Because the next coach, it's not starting over, but it's hard to inherit a team as talented as the one if they fire, I'm not saying they will, but we're playing, hypotheticals here. If they fire that coach, it's hard to take a team you inherit pretty far. Look at Nate Oates. Inherited a pretty talented team and probably not going to make the tournament. It's hard to do. Stackhouse inherits a team. Hard to do. Not going to make the tournament. Buzz Williams, good coach. Did not inherit a good team. Not going to make the tournament. It's hard to do. Next year, I think, is put up or shut up. And
I think so too. I don't think it makes any sense to fire Frank Martin this year. Well, I won't say no sense, but I do not think it's the right move to fire Frank Martin this year. But if we go back to what should this team have done? Now, there are lots of ways to measure expectations. And that's ultimately how you decide how good a season is. It's based on expectations. And expectations for this team were so wildly varied. It's really hard to nail down what standard we should hold this team.
Right.
Nationally, and I guess regionally, because at Media Day, South Carolina was picked to finish, 11th in the conference?
12th, yeah.
12th in the conference, and ahead of Vanderbilt and I don't know what other team. Point is, Carolina was not picked to finish 12th. Not picked to finish 6th. They were picked to finish 12th. They finished 6th. That is overachieving any way you look at it.
Yeah.
But what is the value of that expectation, of that preseason prediction? Because around here, and whether it was because people felt like it was time or because people believed in the talent of this team, I think it's a little bit of both, although the latter is certainly a more legitimate reason to have an opinion than the former. People wanted South Carolina to make the NCAA tournament. People thought Carolina could make the NCAA tournament. Now, again, how much of that is people earnestly believing that this team was an NCAA tournament team, and how much of it was, well, it's been a couple years. It's probably about time. Frank Martin needs to make the tournament again because this is year 8, and Carolina should have made the tournament twice in 8 years, which I also don't think is unrealistic, even if it's not necessarily the right reason to think that a certain team should make the tournament. But relative to those expectations, and given that South Carolina was in a good position to do so a month ago, I think this season is a disappointment.
I can understand that ran of logic. I can also understand being frustrated by it, and I can also understand the fact that, but I will caution to this, is that it's South Carolina. That historically, and I know everyone's like, well, if we don't want to be, if we're always bad, then we'll never be good. I get that too. If no coach has been able, outside of Frank McGuire, been able to have success at South Carolina to a degree, it's hard to win at South Carolina. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to win basketball games at South Carolina. And the fact that Frank Martin's been able to do it consistently speaks a lot to his ability to coach. I understand wanting more results. I'm not saying you don't expect the tournament. I'm just saying to run off or want to run off arguably the best coach you've had, definitely the second best coach you've ever had, seems a little premature for me.
It's this weird sort of negative exceptionalism that surrounds all South Carolina sports.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you're talking about, and I don't understand where it comes from. I don't know if all fan bases have this, and we're just aware of it because we cover this team and we interact with a lot of the fans, and so we're just made more acutely aware of it. I have a feeling that pretty much anywhere you go, fan bases, except for like Alabama football, Kentucky basketball, Kansas basketball, LSU baseball, places like that, I feel like most fans are probably generally fatalistic about their teams.
Yeah.
So again, maybe we're just more aware of it because we're in the weeds, but I've never understood that. And I'm really torn between accepting that as sort of a reality, because the reality is there's only one team that can be the best every year, and there's only a handful of teams that can be almost the best every year. And the idea that Carolina is going to do that in every sport every year isn't realistic. Now, I don't think fans are expecting that. And I'm not someone that believes that that sort of negative mentality of the fan base has anything to do with the team, because it doesn't. But I don't think that should necessarily color expectations, because the fact of the matter is this team is and was good enough, talented enough. They had the right pieces. They had the right makeup to be a tournament team. And I feel like that's... Again, that's certainly on the high end of the expectations. That's like the local, oh yeah, this team should be good, this team should make the tournament, part of the expectations. But I think what we saw this year says that is not wrong. And then you just have to ask the question, why? What held this team back?
Right.
Was it Frank Martin? Probably in part. Was it because A.J. Lawson had a bad sophomore year, that he actually got worse from his freshman year to his sophomore year? I think that's probably part of it. I don't know what other contributing factors there are, but I think the question you have to ask now is like, but there's a lot of young teams.
Yeah, but and it's different. There's a lot of young teams, but there's only 30 teams younger than South Carolina in college basketball. In terms of experience, South Carolina, because Ken Palm tracks this stuff, South Carolina's 325th out of 353 teams. I get that's not an excuse you want to hear. And you can call it an excuse all you want, but that in part has something to do with it when you're playing a lot of young guys, especially in the backcourt. The fact that you have a lot of these pieces returning, depending on who leaves, who stays, whatever, we'll find that out over the next few weeks. Then there's reason for optimism. There is. You have to replace Mike Kotsar, obviously. But there's a reason to feel good about where this program is right now. Mm-hmm. He's stacked 2 really good recruiting classes on top of each other in the 18 and 19 classes. Still TBD on this 2020 because they haven't gotten to campus yet. There's reason for optimism. You return a lot of these pieces. And now if they don't make it next year, sure, I'll be glad to have the conversation about, is this the right fit?
Yeah, that'll be my counterpoint, because there was optimism going into this season, and rightfully so. You were expecting Keyshawn Bryant to get better. You were expecting A.J. Lawson to get better. Mike Kotsar got even better than anybody could have expected. That was a really pleasant development and one of the best stories of the season. The way that Jermaine Couisnard came on in the last 17 games of the season.
We'll probably be all freshmen this year.
Yeah, was tremendous. That you got good productive minutes in different points in the season, although not consistently necessarily, from Wilden Zvek and Jalen McCreary was tremendous. The emergence of Trey Hannibal as the first guard off the bench for South Carolina was a positive development. There were a lot of good things there, and yet it did not meet the generally positive expectations that sort of were based on. I had someone call my local show yesterday and say the exact same thing that you said, the exact same thing that I've said and that I feel. I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate with myself. It's like, well, you look at all the pieces Carolina's bringing back and you assume that these guys are going to get better. That means the season's going to get better. That means Carolina's going to make the tournament. I did the same thing this year, and it didn't happen because the guys that needed to get better either didn't get better or didn't get enough better or as better as we would have thought.
Yeah.
So what's to say that's not going to happen next year?
Right. And consistency was an issue, and that's because they're 325th in KenPom and experience. So you'd like to think that they'll be more consistent next year. That's why I'm saying that 2021, that year, will be the put up or shut up, because now you're running out of excuses are not the right word, but reasons why this team is not great or not making tournaments. Because, all right, they're young this year. I get it. They're young. You're not going to get consistent performance day in and day out from guys that are 18. I wasn't consistent day in and day out when I was 18 either. I'm 24, and I'm still not consistent day to day. You're going to be older. You're going to return almost every piece from this year. And you're bringing in some solid pieces along with that in Seventh Woods and Patrick Uriel and Javon Benson to realistically think that you're a deep, talented team. Now, it's about proving that. And that's why I think that next year, you're probably going to be picked around the same. They were picked 10th in the SEC last year.
Okay. So they finished 4 spots better than they
ahead of Arkansas, which they beat and finished ahead of, A&M, which they beat and finished ahead of, and Missouri, which they beat and finished ahead of. They finished ahead of 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that they were projected to finish behind.
So everyone they were predicted to be better than, they were better than, plus 3 teams.
Yeah.
That's good.
You're exceeding expectations at South Carolina. Based off those numbers.
Exceeding national expectations.
Yeah.
And then again, it just becomes, how do you reconcile the national expectations with the local expectations?
Yeah, and how do you reconcile being one of the best teams wins-wise over the last 5 years and having one tournament to show for it? I get it. I understand the frustrations that come along with that.
Part of it's bad luck, I think.
Yeah.
Because to win 25 games and not go to the SEC, to not go to the NCAA tournament, especially when that at-large bid goes to a Vanderbilt team that South Carolina had just beaten 2 weeks prior.
And the Syracuse team with an RPI in the 75 or something
so
like that.
that's a little bit unlucky.
The narrative changes if they go to 2 tournaments, right?
Right.
We're not having this conversation.
No, because then Frank Martin's been to 2 tournaments in 8 years, and that feels like what people want is a tournament every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And postseason play every 2 to 3 years if you include NITs. Not that anybody cares about NITs, but you can at least say, well, Frank Martin's made the postseason 3 of the last 5 years. Yeah.
And everyone collectively agrees they got screwed there. Got absolutely screwed. The narrative changes when you get there.
But then they screwed themselves with Wyoming and
Stetson this year.
Yeah, Stetson this year.
Boston
did
this
they lose
year.
to Stony Brook last year?
Yeah, Boston this year. This
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt this year.
Can we agree? Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to say about the Vanderbilt game. The only other thing I wanted to say about the Vanderbilt game. Can we agree that's the worst loss of the season? I think that's a worse loss than Stetson, given the situation.
Given the situation, yeah. Given the situation, yes.
That's amazing. All anyone has talked about since whenever that game was, December, 4th, 5th, 31st, whenever. Oh, yeah, because that was the last game of the non-con. Yeah, December 30th. All anyone has talked about for 2020 with South Carolina basketball has been Stetson game, Stetson game, Stetson game, Stetson game. And what did South Carolina do in the regular season finale? But they actually one-upped it. They had a worse loss than the one loss that everyone was talking about for the entire year.
It was
3
bad.
months of the year.
It was bad.
So that's on them. You have to eliminate those. Is that on the players? Is that on the young players? Yes.
Yeah.
How much blame does Frank Martin deserve for those?
I mean, he's the head coach. Buck stops with him. He deserves some credit for it. And he deserves credit when they win, blame when they lose. But they also beat Kentucky. They also beat Arkansas on the road. You balance the good with the bad. And record-wise, there's been a lot more good than there's been bad. 5 more good currently than 5 more bad. So I understand the frustrations, but you also got to understand that stability-wise, you have a puncher's chance for the tournament every year now with Frank Martin.
The conversation was being had until March 8th. Until March 8th at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it's still, could Carolina get to Sunday and lose and still get in, do you think? 21-14?
With wins probably over Arkansas, LSU, and Auburn. Frank seems to think so. He kind of talked about that after the Vanderbilt game. I'm probably less inclined to think so.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they have to win it.
But that'd be 3 quad 1 wins back to back to back, and beating 2 tournament teams.
Mm-hmm. And I guess a lot of it would probably, well, maybe not a lot of it, but some of it would come down to what happens in that Kentucky game. If Carolina loses by 2 or 4, maybe you have a more convincing argument than if they lose by 17.
And if all these bubble teams just absolutely shat the bed in conference tournaments.
Well, that's the other complicated part of this. Obviously, the conference tournaments are underway right now. 6 of them have wrapped up as we record on Tuesday morning, and 2 of them already have unfavorable results for South Carolina, with Utah State winning the Mountain West. This means San Diego State is going to obviously go ahead and grab one of those at-large bids, with Utah State getting the automatic qualifier, and Bradley winning the Missouri Valley. I don't know if that actually directly impacts South Carolina, because
It'll
Northern
impact
Illinois...
the NIT.
Huh?
It'll impact the NIT.
Yeah, Northern Illinois right now is considered a bubble team, and so ahead of South Carolina, and if y'all will recall, has the head-to-head over South Carolina. I don't know if the tournament will look at that exactly in terms of if South Carolina were in a head-to-head sort of ish for an at-large with Northern Iowa. I said Northern Illinois. I meant Northern Iowa. UNI. That's not good for South Carolina. Now the rest of them have been, I guess, chalk, with Belmont, Winthrop, Liberty, and East Tennessee State winning the Southern Conference last night. But if a couple more of those happen, huh?
Yeah. Go Eagles.
Yeah.
My brother goes to Winthrop. Go Eagles.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Cool.
He forgot about the game. I texted him on Sunday.
Forgot about the championship.
Yeah. I texted him Saturday, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, he goes, oh, well, I got plans that night. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. And I was like, lucky for you, the game's at 1. So I texted him at 1:45 when Winthrop was making their run. I was like, oh, how awesome is this? And he's like, oh, I completely forgot. The game's going on. Like,
that sounds about right.
How?
That's how I was about Furman sports.
Yeah. I was like, I know he's not that big into sports, but like, and then I texted him, was like, they stormed the court. And all I got back was like 1 4-letter word. And I was like, they stormed the court and you weren't there. And I just got 1 4-letter word back.
A 4-letter word of regret.
Yes.
So that did not hurt South Carolina.
No.
That Winthrop won the Big South. If a bunch more of these start to go kind of sideways, then I would say 20. I still don't think 21 would be the number. If the rest of these go chalk, 21 might be the number. Still,
you got to have some bubble teams lay. I think there's a piece that's going to run Wednesday, and I use the term dinosaur-sized eggs. Like every bubble team loses their first game.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and say that's not going to happen.
There's
Carolina will probably make the NIT.
Yeah, it's like the scene in Dumb and Dumber where they're like 1 in 800 million. Like, what's the chance of us getting together?
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, there's a chance, sure, but it's as minuscule gets.
So with that, we'll take a look at the SEC tournament as a whole in just a second. But if we say that closes the book on the 1920 season, even if Carolina wins the NIT, how much do you think Carolina fans will care?
Less than if they'd even just made the tournament.
We ran a poll question on the halftime show last week, and I said, would you rather South Carolina make 20 straight NCAA tournaments and win 0 games, losing the first round of the NCAA tournament every year for 20 years, or win 20 straight NIT tournaments, win the whole thing every single year for 20 years, and like 88% of people said NCAA tournament.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
I get it.
And I think that's right. I think that is the correct answer.
They won back-to-back in the NITs, and how often do we talk about it? 0.
Yeah. I mean, only to be like, Frank hasn't even done that. No. That's the only time people bring it up.
It is hanging up in the media room.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big mural, and there's like the Final Four is up there, the ACC title, I'm trying to remember now, the 25-win season's up there, and the back-to-back NITs. They took down Devin Downey's performance against Kentucky.
I remember being excited in like middle school when that was happening, but that's because I don't think I understood the difference between the NIT and the NCAA tournament. I was like, oh, there's postseason.
They're winning, yeah.
Yeah, they're winning. That's cool. And they won the last game of the season, which always leaves a good taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
So basically whatever Carolina does in the postseason at this point doesn't really matter. So next season, we'll obviously have an entire offseason to talk about this, but just as a quick look ahead.
A little taste.
You lose Mike Kotsar.
Yeah.
Let's assume, and I don't know if this is a safe assumption or not, and we will actually save this part of the discussion for the offseason, but let's assume you bring everybody else back. Who is the heart and soul of the 2020-2021 South Carolina men's basketball team?
It's a good lead-in. Jermaine Couisnard.
Not Keyshawn Bryant, not A.J. Lawson, not T.J. Moss.
No. Jermaine has what we like to call cojones.
He does.
So
even when he shoots 6 of 15 and 1 of 7 of 3 and shoots 0 free throws.
And he has no conscience. I mean, getting to sit on the floor, it's no big deal. I did against Vanderbilt. You get to hear a lot more. You get to see a lot more. Jermaine Couisnard is as vocal a leader as it comes. I mean, he is lighting into players. Like lighting into them.
Really?
Jogging back on defense, he's lighting into players. He's the heart and soul of this team. He's the heart and soul of this team right now, and that's not changing.
Is that good?
Yeah. Because
should Carolina fans not want it to be AJ or Keyshawn or one of these older guys that has a little more
I don't think
pro
they
potential?
Care. I don't think they care.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to know, and I texted you about this before, I have these handy-dandy stats. I'm holding up a notebook.
Wow, you wrote these down. You have everything on your computer. These were important enough that you wrote them down with pen and paper.
I did this watching South Carolina beat Cornell Sunday, running off very, very limited sleep. All right.
So these are Jermaine's numbers for the season, and let me say,
just conference play. Just conference play.
Okay, just conference.
Since he started getting regular minutes.
So 17 games as a starter. Is that correct?
Rough.
He started the.
These are all
game?
18 conference games compared to.
Okay. Although he didn't play in the Florida game, right? Which is the only reason I make that distinction.
It's just conference games, and then we're going to compare him to another.
Okay. Now I would say Jermaine had a very good freshman season, but tailed off toward the end in a way that was a little bit disappointing, but not unpredictable, because we've talked a lot on this podcast about the freshman wall. So hit me with your statistical comparison.
Let's play a game. We're going to guess.
All right.
Jermaine or Sindarius?
Oh, sweet. I love this.
Who had the higher offensive rating this year in SEC games?
In their freshman year? Sindarius had a good freshman year. I'm going to go Sindarius.
Jermaine Couisnard.
Okay. By how much?
2.6. He had a 98.7 offensive rating. Sindarius 96.1. Percent of possessions used, usage rate.
I'm definitely going to go Jermaine there.
Sindarius.
Oh, no. I'm bad at this already.
Percent of shots.
Wait. What was each of their usage rates?
Sin was at 30, Jermaine 27.4.
Wow, 30% of his possessions freshman year? That's wild.
That team was bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, though. That's a lot.
Percent of shots taken, or shots involved in.
I'll give the edge to Sindarius then there.
You are correct.
Okay, there we go.
Effective field goal percentage?
I'll still say Sindarius.
Jermaine,
really? Even with some inefficient games in the last couple of weeks.
True shooting percentage?
True shooting percentage, definitely Jermaine, because he probably takes more threes than Sindarius did freshman year.
By 0.1 Sindarius.
No.
50.2, Jermaine's at 50.1.
How many, well, now I'm maybe asking for stats you didn't write down. How many threes did Sindarius take freshman year compared to Jermaine? I feel like Jermaine's taken a lot more, and those are higher percentage shots. Yeah.
I'll find that out.
Because for those of you that don't know what true shooting percentage is, I think we mentioned it maybe even just last podcast. It takes into consideration the value of your shots.
That's effective field goal percentage.
Oh, wait, what are you talking about?
True shooting percentage. It lumps in free throws. Every shot you take.
Okay, all right. I wasn't. Okay.
Jermaine took 124 threes this year. He took 87 in conference play.
Okay.
87 in conference play. And Sindarius, his freshman year, took 81 in conference play.
So the numbers are a little closer than I thought.
Yeah.
Also, I apologize for misleading all of our listeners. I thought you were talking about effective field goal percentage. I don't even know if I knew there was a difference between true and effective.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Sindarius 0.1% better than Jermaine.
True shooter, yes.
Okay.
Offensive rebound rate.
Sindarius.
Yes. Defensive rebound rate.
Jermaine?
No, Sindarius.
Okay.
Easy. Assist rate.
Definitely Jermaine.
No. Sindarius had a 30.6 assist rate, and Jermaine had a 24.
Man.
Turnover rate.
Jermaine.
By a lot.
By a lot. Uh-oh.
Sindarius had a 25%. So on the quarter of the possessions he touched the ball, he turned it over.
All right, that's not good.
Jermaine was a 17.1, which is still pretty high. Steal rate.
Oh, wait. Sindarius is 25%. Oh.
Which is higher.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Jermaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, better.
Huh.
Jermaine 17.1. Steal rate.
Steal rate, Sindarius?
By 0.3. Yeah, 2.1 to 1.8. Fouls committed per 40.
Jermaine.
Sindarius. Committed 3.7. Jermaine commits 4.3.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking Jermaine was higher.
Yeah, Jermaine is higher.
Yeah. Sindarius was better. Got it.
Yes. Fouls drawn per 40.
Now, this one's come up a couple times throughout the course of the podcast, and I know it's been close. So at the conclusion of the regular season for Jermaine, I will say he's like, what, 1% lower than Sindarius?
He is 0.5% higher. Half a foul higher. 6.1 fouls drawn per 40, and Sim was at 5.6. Free throw rate.
Free throw rate.
How often you get to the line compared to when you shoot.
Yeah, I would say, oh gosh. Well, I'm sitting here staring at this Vanderbilt box score with 0 free throw attempts compared to 15 field goal attempts, but I feel like Jermaine has had a lot of games where he shot like 9 field goal attempts.
Think about the Ole Miss game.
Yeah, okay. All right, Jermaine.
That's Sindarius.
What?
By like...
didn't he shoot like 15 free throws against Ole Miss, Jermaine?
Yeah, but he has a 44.2 free throw rate. Sindarius at 45.9.
Okay, so it's close.
It's very close. All of these have been really close,
Yeah.
except for the
rebound rate. I hope y'all have noticed that being the trend.
Free throw percentage.
Free throw percentage?
Yeah.
I hope Sindarius.
Yeah,
Okay,
Sindarius.
that's good.
2-point percentage.
2-point percentage.
This one's the farthest off.
Okay, so Sindarius wins by a significant margin?
No, Jermaine.
Jermaine, a significantly better 2-point shooter than
7%
Sindarius?
higher. 47 to 41. 48 to 41. You round. And then this one should be easy. 3-point percentage.
Oh, gosh. We said it should be easy. I don't know. Sindarius?
Yeah.
Okay.
By 7.
What did Jermaine shoot this year from 3?
If in SEC play, about 29%.
Okay, so not good.
But that took a huge hit, obviously.
When you go 1 of 7.
Yeah.
All right, so who was worse, South Carolina in the second half or me at guessing those?
South Carolina second half still.
Yeah, but not by much.
You never sent me to the free throw line.
Yeah. Wow, that's remarkably similar. Most of those, what, like a percentage point difference?
Yeah, I mean, these
less?
are all these are all marginally different. He had an incredibly similar year to Sindarius Thornwell.
So Sindarius was, quick recap, Sindarius was better than Jermaine Couisnard in which categories his freshman year?
So I'll start with Jermaine. Jermaine was more efficient, had a better offensive rating, took better shots and made better shots, had a lower turnover rate, drew more fouls per 40 minutes, and shot better from 2. Sindarius was used more, took more shots, which is probably what impacted his offensive rating. Their true shooting percentages are so close that we'll just chalk that up as a tie. He rebounded the ball better. He had more assists, committed fewer fouls, and shot better from the free throw line from 3. But all of those are almost comparable.
So the biggest thing for Jermaine to work on year 1 to year 2, his usage is going to go up. What was the discrepancy in their usage rates? 3%, you said? 30 and 27?
Roughly 2.5.
Okay. So Jermaine's usage rate, I think, probably projects to go up a little bit, although 27 is already pretty high.
Although you could move him off the ball if you need to.
With 7th coming in?
With 7th coming in.
Yeah. So you got to get better at three-point shooting. You have to be a more consistent free throw shooter, but he's already shooting 2 as well. His turnover rate is already lower. His assist-to-turnover rate, which I know you didn't exactly calculate, but that was good for him. Having a 10 assist, 0 turnover game certainly helps that ratio.
Yeah, the margin on assist rate and turnover rate for Jermaine is 7. For Sindarius, it was 5, roughly.
Okay.
Quick math.
So he's in a good position.
He is comparable to arguably the best player in program history.
What would you say of those things? Is I've said 3-point shooting. That's where I'm going to cast my final vote. What would you say is the biggest improvement Jermaine needs to make from freshman year to sophomore year to avoid doing what A.J. Lawson did to South Carolina fans this year in terms of getting your hopes up and then tearing their hearts out?
Can't turn the ball over, man. Can't turn the ball over.
But so do you just look at pure turnovers? Because I look at if he has.
I look at turnover rate.
If he has 3 turnovers in a game, but he has 6 or 7 assists, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because when you have the ball that much and you're distributing that much, you're going to turn the ball over. So I like LeBron will have games where he's like 28, 9, and 9, and he'll have 4 assists, but it's like, yeah, he touched the ball every single possession. You're going to have some turnovers. So some of that you build into the offense.
You got to commit less fouls, too. I mean, when you commit almost 4 fouls per 40, it's probably not going to end well for you. Because more than likely you're playing 30 minutes per game, which means you're getting to 3 or 4 fouls.
Right.
So,
what was Jermaine's, actually, I'll look right here because I probably have it. I'm just curious now what Jermaine's, unless you already have it, Jermaine's minutes per game in SEC play.
Jermaine's minutes per game in SEC play?
I don't have it in SEC play, but for the season, he's playing 26 minutes a game. I'm sure that went up in SEC play just because he was obviously starting.
He played 29.2 minutes per game.
So right at about 30 minutes a game. That'll probably go up 4 minutes next year.
Yeah.
Roughly.
You'll probably get into the 32, 33 range.
12, 3, and 3. 40% shooting. Those are his complete 2019-2020 stats.
Also, side note, do you know who leads in conference games and SEC games per 40 minutes scoring?
Scoring per 40 minutes?
In SEC games?
I have no idea.
Mike Green.
Of course.
By 6 points.
Oh, yeah. He's got, 2 threes in SEC play?
Yeah.
That's a fun stat. I remember there was a year when, what was the guy's name from North Carolina? Tyler Hansborough. The Hornets had him for like a year or two, and he would only come in and play garbage time minutes, but he threw like half of, this was like 3 years ago maybe, and at the All-Star break, he had the highest PER in the league by like a ton. Obviously didn't qualify in terms of minutes. He played like 20 minutes, and his PER was like the greatest ever. So I love stats like that.
Yeah. Mike Green has the best offensive rating on the team per 40 minutes, per 100 possessions. Has the fourth highest offense defensive rating. So pretty much he makes effective use of minutes in blowouts.
Sounds like it. Good job, Mike. This is your second or third shout out on this podcast, I guess. And all of them have been positive. Except maybe that first 3 that he made when he went glass probably gave him a little bit of grief for that, but that's okay.
Also, there's only one player with a negative win share on South Carolina.
Oh, can I guess who it is? Oh, you're making a face, which makes you think I'm already right. It's TJ Moss. Oh, no.
Negative 0.1.
That's tough. Tough beat for TJ. All right, well, let me ask you about another blank J.
Yeah.
If Jermaine is the face of the team going forward, junior A.J. Lawson with pro aspirations, who had the chance to just make this team his this year and pretty much pissed that away. Is he more comfortable? Again, this is a scenario where he's coming back.
Yes.
I think it would be an absolute tragedy and an incredibly foolish decision for him to leave right now, really for any situation, unless he maybe wants to go play pro in Europe. Like maybe there's an opportunity for additional development there, but I think if he leaves, it would be a terrible idea. So let's assume he's coming back. I think this would be a better basketball situation for him because he is not a primary ball handler.
And they're not going to lump all the leadership on him to start the year, which was a problem.
But is that Is that going to bother him? Is he someone that thinks and wants to be the guy? Thinks he is the guy and wants to be the guy and needs to be the guy?
Being the guy and being the leader, I think, are two different things. That I think that the pressure of being the leader and being the guy got to him, and he struggled because of it. If Jermaine's the leader, he's going to get good looks. He's going to have open shots, and then it's just about knocking him down. And then that's if he comes back.
So this backcourt could work. AJ Lawson and Jermaine Couisnard with Trey Hannibal and Seventh Woods coming off the bench.
Yeah, 100%. Could work.
What is your predicted starting lineup for the first game of the 2020-2021 season, assuming all health?
All health. Are we assuming AJ Lawson comes back?
Yeah, let's assume he comes back in this scenario.
All right. Jermaine.
Mm-hmm.
AJ.
Mm-hmm.
Keyshawn.
Mm-hmm.
Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Wildens.
So then you have a bench mob of Trey Hannibal,
Seventh
Woods, Alonzo Frank, Jalen McCreary,
Javon Benson,
and
Patrick Uriel.
One of the new guys.
Yeah.
Seventh Woods, Alonzo Frank, or Trey Hannibal. Who's your sixth man? Or Jair Bolden. Gosh. So you have Seventh Woods, Trey Hannibal, Jair Bolden, Alonzo Frank, and Jalen McCreary. Or probably Jalen McCreary, Alonzo Frank, in that order. Who plays the three there? Seventh can't play. Can Seventh play the three? Carolina's got a lot of guards.
Yeah.
If AJ comes back. Jermaine, AJ, Seventh, Trey, and Jair, all those guys deserve minutes.
Yeah. I think if you're going to play Seventh, you take out AJ, you slide Mania down, take out Keyshawn. There's some different, I don't know. I'm just spitballing. You could play him if you want to go small. They've played Jair at the three a little bit. AJ at the three a little bit. So
yeah, AJ at the three makes a lot more sense than Jair, and probably even Seventh. I'm just trying to figure out how all these guys fit. But you think that
we're not paid to do that?
Yeah, exactly. But Jermaine and AJ next to each other. If AJ comes back,
now if AJ doesn't come back, obviously
that's Seventh.
You put Seventh in at point guard, Jermaine to 2.
Ooh, well, but what does Jermaine at the 2 do? I like Jermaine at point.
They've done it a lot when they put him in with Trey Hannibal. Frank loves to have multiple point guards on the floor at all times.
Yeah.
So that different guys bring up the ball and can set the offense. And
I just would hate for Jermaine to have the kind of freshman year that he had that you just detailed as similar to Sindarius Thornwell, and then to see his usage rate drop.
But Sindarius did not play point the rest of his career a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up. So.
But Jermaine is a more natural point, obviously, than Sindarius. Like, Jermaine is a point guard. Sindarius is always kind of a 2-3 swing.
Yeah, Sindarius never played a lot of point his freshman year, which makes his usage rate even more insane.
Yeah.
He put a lot of 3 his freshman year. His sophomore year, where he was banged up, played 3. Junior year, played primarily point guard. 88% of the point guard minutes over the last 5 games.
Really?
Sindarius Thornwell. Huh. And then his senior year, obviously, Sindarius was your 3. And 4 a little bit too. Who do you think over the last 5 games? So the tournament. You're
talking about the tournament, the Final Four year.
Yeah. Ken Pom does the depth chart over the last 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think played the most minutes, percent of minutes at point guard?
Percent of minutes at point guard. I'm trying to.
Rothfelder.
Was it really?
46%, and then PJ played 45%.
Rothfelder played the majority of the point guard minutes.
And then, but their most
coming off the bench.
Yeah, but their most frequent lineup was your starting, your Dozier, Notice, Thornwell.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you were asking, so I figured it wasn't PJ. So I was trying to decide if it was. I wasn't going to guess Raw. I was trying to decide. I was like, did Dwayne ever play point? Like, were there ever?
No, he was always your 2.
I figured he was, but
and Raw Felder.
I can't believe it was Raw.
The next most frequent lineup, Raw Felder was your starting point guard, and PJ Dozier was your 4.
Wow, a lot of defensive versatility there. And PJ still playing well for the Nuggets.
Yeah,
good job, PJ.
Go Peach.
It was. I don't know, because it's worked out for him, so I don't want to say it wasn't a good decision for him to leave early. But I still feel like he really could have benefited from that extra year. I hope AJ stays.
I'm always about people making their money.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's worked out for him. I don't know if it would work out the same way for AJ because AJ didn't even have the same kind of year that PJ did by a long shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. That will be the biggest
still
off-season.
to be determined with him.
Yeah.
Still very much
to be determined. Off-season to come. I have no idea when we'll know. I mean, frankly, the season's not even over yet. So this was kind of a fun sneak peek. We'll have a lot more of this, obviously, throughout the course of the real off-season. Before we get out of here, you want to run through the SEC tournament bracket?
Ooh. Sure.
All right.
Not great, but sure.
Georgia, Ole Miss.
Are we going to predict games now?
Yeah.
Oh, let's do it.
We're just going to run through.
All right, Georgia, Ole Miss. Ole Miss.
Really?
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards
really
making a push for the draft.
I really like Bree and Tyree.
Yeah, he's awesome, but he's not Anthony Edwards. He's not about to be the number one pick in the draft. That's going to be like the most fun, meaningless game on TV.
Yeah, it's just going to be two teams just like trading drives and body blows. It's awesome.
And Anthony Edwards trying to say, "Hey, I'm the number one overall pick," and Bree and Tyree trying to say, "Hey, give me a chance."
Yeah, I'm still taking Ole Miss.
That sounds like a dig.
I'm still taking Ole Miss there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take Georgia. Okay. So we'll go down to Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
Can we keep track here?
Yeah, sure. You want to write it down?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt and Arkansas. Vanderbilt has home court, which is so not fair. And if Vanderbilt ever gets good at basketball again, this is going to be a real issue. Yeah. But so far, nobody cares because they don't. Does that matter? Does Vanderbilt upset Arkansas?
No.
I'm
taking Arkansas.
I'll go Arkansas as well. So we'll go back up to the top. Alabama versus the Tennessee Volunteers.
Give me Alabama.
I like Tennessee. I don't like how Alabama has ended the season. I feel like they're in the same situation as South Carolina, where despite a very middling record, their net ranking and things like that said that they were a pretty good chance to make the tournament. I feel like they need to win a couple games now, or maybe win the tournament. I don't know exactly, because like 16-13, like that is a stupid record for a team that could legitimately be in the conversation.
Correct.
Obviously, their net ranking is amazing. I feel like
stupid.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of like a little bit of resolution setting in, and Tennessee has played well to end the season. So give me Tennessee.
Okay.
Next up, you have you have Ole Miss in Florida. I have Georgia in Florida.
Ole Miss.
No, that's your team making the run. All right, I'm gonna go Florida over Georgia.
I haven't been sold on Florida all year.
Okay. All righty. Next up, Missouri and TAMU.
TAMU.
It's weird that they're good.
Yeah, Buzz Williams, good coach.
Carolina beat them by a combined 50 points in 2 games, roughly.
They match up well. They match up really well with that kind of Buzz because they play very similar styles.
South Carolina, Arkansas. Arkansas?
Give me South Carolina in this one.
I thought you were picking Arkansas for sure.
Oh, I wrestled with it. I made a fart noise with my mouth. That's how hard I was wrestling.
I think the mic picked it up a little bit. I'm going to make sure to leave that in there. Yeah, definitely got that one.
Okay, good. That was my struggle. That was my Tony Romo sound.
I'll pick Carolina.
They beat because Isaiah Joe and Mason Jones both played in Fayetteville. Arkansas's playing better now, but
this team's showing a lot of fight at a lot of points in the season. Just because they didn't against Vanderbilt doesn't mean they're all out.
I think they're playing Friday.
Yeah, that seems right. And, it wouldn't be Carolina if they didn't give their fans just enough hope. Beating a good Arkansas team and then having hearts broken. Yeah. Back up to the top. You have Alabama against Kentucky. I have Tennessee against Kentucky.
I'll go Kentucky in this
I'm going to pick Kentucky, yeah. And next up we have... you have Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Egg Bowl Part 3. And I have Florida and Mississippi State. Yeah, I'm also going to pick Mississippi State. I don't like Florida all that much.
I don't like Florida either. And we actually went, my apartment, we're huge college basketball fans. And so we literally went around the table last night and picked, we each got 4 teams that are currently in the tournament, according to Lenardi, and 1 bubble team that we're allowed to hop on the bandwagon for.
Mm-hmm.
And Mississippi State was
that was yours?
Team. I really like what I've seen from them this year.
They're good.
I think my other ones were Michigan State.
Always a good pick.
East Tennessee State.
Nice. They just won.
UCLA and Villanova were the teams that I was like, you know what? I'm going to hop on these bandwagons.
Good for you. Bandwagon hopping.
Not that I know everyone really cared. Oh, what team's Collyn really feeling?
No, people probably wanted to know because as soon as Carolina's out of it, people are going to be like, well, who do I pull for? Now they can just side with you. I haven't done that. I haven't thought that much about it. So I'll just adopt your teams
and
everyone listening. These are Collyn's teams, and everyone that listens to the podcast is a part of it. Next up, we both have Texas A&M against Auburn.
Auburn.
I'm going to pick Auburn, but
you wrestled with it.
I've really thought about A&M. I wonder
if
if that could be a tough matchup for Auburn.
It is.
If A&M could just pound them inside, get 20 offensive rebounds and 32 second chance points, and keep this thing close.
Yeah.
But I like Bruce Pearl in a tournament.
I do too.
So give me Auburn. So we had a couple different picks to start, but it looks like we're all going chalk here because I'm picking LSU over South Carolina.
No.
Aww.
No, I'm picking LSU too.
Yeah. All right, so we have, look at that. We have the top 4 seeds. How unoriginal. Yeah. It looked like we were actually going to go somewhere. All right, Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
You're picking I'll do Kentucky. And then Auburn, LSU. I'm going to take Auburn.
I'll take LSU.
Yeah.
Hold on, you'll take Kentucky. Then I'll take LSU.
So we have different championship games at least.
You're taking Auburn, right?
Yeah. I have Kentucky and Auburn, and you have Mississippi State and LSU. I feel like such an idiot for picking the 1 and 2 seed in the championship game, but I guess that's why they're the 1 and 2 seeds, right? Yeah. Maybe I should have picked A&M. No, it's all right. Whatever. This is a likely outcome. I think Kentucky's going to win it all. And you think Mississippi State's going to win it all?
I think LSU wins it all.
For the potential benefit of South Carolina, you should pick Mississippi State. I guess it wouldn't matter.
No.
But actually that could matter. Well,
no.
Because they wouldn't be. That's one of the bubble teams out of the way. If they get the automatic qualifier.
Yeah, but if Mississippi State gets to Sunday, they're getting in the tournament.
No, but I'm saying if they get the automatic qualifier, like Kentucky's going to be in anyway, Auburn's going to be in anyway, LSU's going to be in anyway. Mississippi State is a bubble team that is theoretically ahead of South Carolina.
I'm just picking who I think is going to win. I don't care about bubble.
Okay. If you're a Carolina fan, maybe you want Mississippi State to go ahead and win the whole darn thing. I'm going to go Kentucky. Not a very interesting pick. They're really good, though.
Well, Kentucky. No, Higgins has been out. That's why I can't see him getting past Mississippi State.
Okay. Well, there we go. That's our SEC tournament predictions. It's Tuesday.
South Carolina's making their way to Nashville today.
Yeah. Wait, I thought they stayed there.
No.
Okay.
They flew back. Then they'll go out today and practice there on Wednesday. Media is allowed in. Public is not.
So you're going back? Good.
Yeah.
Did you make it to Bolton's this past weekend?
It was closed.
I
went. We tried 2 different Bolton's locations. The 2 in Nashville, and both were closed because one was on the east side of Nashville where the tornado hit.
Okay,
they just closed
that makes
both.
sense.
We did go to the Distillery.
Okay,
which is a phenomenal place right off Broadway. I got hot chicken mac and cheese.
How was it?
Oh my god!
Did it hurt?
It like the only part that hurt. You eat it, and then you have to go out. And so you're like struggling to do any kind of thing. It was as brutal could get. Like the first 2 beers were just like, you're struggling to get through them because you're like, all that chicken is settling, and yeah, it was bad.
That sounds like a delicious but unfortunate for later kind of cocktail.
Painfully delicious meal.
Yeah. That's the beauty of hot chicken. I love it. So you're going back. You going Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah, I go Wednesday, and we'll be there for practice and availability and all that.
All right. Well, then, I guess that'll do it for us here. We hit on a lot of things today. A real variety podcast.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Maybe we'll try to do something on the phone later in the week, depending on what your schedule is.
Yeah. Well, they play the late game, so thankfully we got plenty of time.
Right. That's true. So we'll be back. Rate, review, subscribe to this podcast. Read everything that Collyn has up on GamecockCentral.com.
Please.
Follow him on Twitter. Yeah, you're doing everything baseball, everything basketball. I don't know how you keep it all straight in your head. I certainly cannot.
I don't.
Okay, good. So if you see that Noah Campbell went 3 of 5 from 3, then you'll understand what's going through Collin's brain.
Our live thread for baseball on whatever day that was.
Sunday.
I started and had to backspace it. Hello and welcome to Colonial Life Arena.
Oh, no.
So it was, yeah.
Do you say welcome to Founders Park or welcome to the Ray?
Founders Park.
Okay, that's cool. Jay Phillips calls it the Ray.
I like that.
Which I like. Yeah.
I like that.
It's got a good ring to it. So anyway, we'll be back at some point to talk about whatever happens in the SEC tournament, to compare our brackets, and to talk about South Carolina's either end of the season or continued improbable run. But regardless, for all things South Carolina and now SEC basketball, right here on the Hard Foul. Rate, review, subscribe. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Boom.
Or later this week.